Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Think Tank Sports. Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen. Check us out on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, and the IG. Listen to us on Anchor or wherever you get your podcasts. And watch us on YouTube. Oh my gosh, we're still doing the YouTube thing, and y'all seem to like it. And so here
It's
we
here to
are.
stay, buddy.
It's
Yeah.
here to stay. We talked about it off air for months and said we got to get into it, and now that we have, I'm glad we did because you all seem to like it. So here we are recording on Thursday, a little later than we normally do for our weekly recap, but we're getting to it, even though, probably as we're finishing recording, week 14 will start. But we're going to wrap up week 13 in the NFL and talk about the exciting end to the college football season, which was a great one, of course. But hey, it's not just me. As you can see, there's somebody else on the screen.
Hey,
Oh, hey,
buddy.
Mike, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm just great.
Doug Flutie was on a box of Wheaties. Just want to make you aware of that. Do you have the Flutie Flakes box at your house somewhere?
No, I just have the
Or did you ever own?
fruity jersey, the fruity
Yeah,
flakes. Well, I guess I could still have the box. The cereal would
right.
be,
Yeah, disgusting. Yeah,
yeah.
no, thank you. Dave, I'm doing well over here. Did I detect? Did you move to South Central New York? Because you had a couple y'alls in there. I didn't know you had any Southern drawl in you too.
Oh, yeah, I guess it came out somehow. I didn't know
Yeah.
I had it either.
Speaking of going south, the New England Patriots tried to play your Buffalo Bills on last Thursday and didn't go well for them, buddy. I'm sure you took great satisfaction in watching how inept their offense was. You guys were still pretty banged up on defense, too, at the time, and still 24-10. So, do you have any thoughts or takeaways from that game? I know there's been, well, go ahead. You tell me what you think.
Yeah, certainly. And I was a little nervous going in. It's probably because it's still the Patriots. It's still Belichick.
Right.
They have shown defensively, the Patriots are very good, right near the top of the league and yards allowed and points allowed. And, Buffalo has, struggled a little bit recently. We've covered that.
Sure.
Um, but this was a grinded out game.
Yep.
The kind of game that I don't think you've really seen from the Bills, um, really in a very long time, and be successful at it. A lot of running. James Cook was phenomenal. 14 carries for 64 yards, and he caught 6 passes for 41 yards. He was all over the field. Um, and
The next Marshall Falk.
Yeah,
So
I mean, he certainly could be. I think he's a little bit bulkier than Marshall Falk.
is he? All right, I'll
But
give you
but I
that.
don't know. I'd have to look at the numbers. I
Uh,
always consider Marshall Falk to be a small guy.
right.
And that's probably not as
Totally
true as I
accurate.
actually say it
Right.
is, or as accurate. Um, but this is the
I was just referring to our conversation with Steve and our boy Nate Geary on Twitter, and his James Cook is the next Hall of Famer for the Bills, and their season's completely turned around because James Cook caught a couple of passes off the backfield
yeah,
in a fairly meaningless yet intense divisional game.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Nate is he's got some issues there. Maybe we can entice Stevie on our Lose With Us segment to get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
But this is what I have to say, and I've said it for a couple of weeks, but I'm going to emphatically say it now. I want people to be done saying that the Buffalo Bills cannot run the football. Just stop it. Okay. They are in the top 10 in the league in yards per carry, not as many touchdowns, doesn't really matter. And this was a game where you saw, are the numbers great? No, but 37 attempts for 132 yards, 3.6 yards per carry. It allowed them to dominate time of possession, 38 minutes to 21 for the Patriots, just grinding it out. And, for some of us old school fans, they don't have to be Buffalo fans. When
Right.
you can see a team in December grinding the ball out, running, just knocking people off the ball with the offensive line, that's a sign of a team that can really fight through and really make some big plays in big moments in playoff football. So for me, that was the most impressive. And I think, for New England, even though I was a little nervous, they are who we thought they were, and we did not let them off the hook. They are just not a very good team.
Yeah.
There's no two ways
Especially
around
on
it.
one side of the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, defensively, fine.
They're okay. Yeah. Judon's
Yeah,
nice and they have some players, but Gilmore obviously. But
offensively,
yeah.
they just can't get anything done. And you get the shouting of Mac Jones on the sidelines, which he later reveals was not directed at anyone, even though initially it seemed to be directed at Matt Patricia, the offensive coordinator, who, by the way, is a defensive coordinator. I mean,
Right.
this is
they're alternating play calling with him and Joe Judge. How can
right.
that be
Right. So you
consistent?
have the defensive coordinator and the special teams guy. Those are
Right.
their experience levels running an NFL offense. Let me know, sign
With
me
a
up.
mediocre
What
quarterback.
team
Yeah.
in NFL history has been successful doing that?
No.
Nobody.
So, Dave, let me ask you a question. As a Bills fan, I'm sorry that I cut off your
No,
saying.
you're good. You're good.
You're giving me a nobody knows the trouble I seen.
I was gonna go there, but it didn't
Okay.
quite get there. So I just said nobody knows.
So there's been a national narrative. I hate to use catchwords like narrative and woke and all that, but anyway, there's a national narrative that the Bills are down a little. There's a national narrative that Josh Allen's fallen off a little, even from last year. You see his odds slipping in the MVP race behind Hurts, behind Tua, Mahomes, obviously. Even here, Joe Burrow's name creeping up there. Derek Carr's a long shot all of a sudden, if they make the playoffs. When you look at their recent schedule, I mean, they lost a divisional game on the road by 3 to a rival in the Jets. They got beat in overtime by a clearly very good Vikings team. And now they're on a 3-game win streak and heading back to, a home game first versus the Jets. I don't think things are as dire as these people. And I know they have something to talk about, but this wasn't it for me. This is a big miss from the national media for me. But I'm curious what you would think about that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's tough. They struggled. They lost a few games. So, everybody kind of got down on them, but they've picked it up. I think some folks said, hey, that Detroit game was a character builder because they hadn't won close games. And we know their record when they.
Oh, by the way, Detroit's a very good football team.
Sure. And then Detroit, goes out and clobbers.
They won 4 or 5 in a row, haven't they, since then? I know they beat my Giants.
3 out of 4. Yeah. They clobbered a Jacksonville team, that had just had a great win the week before. Everyone's like, well, it's the Lions. They're not that good. And
all right. So now it's 4 out of 5. My bad. Sorry.
Right. So then they beat the Giants
and then they beat
you guys. Right. And they beat Jacksonville. And clobber Jacksonville, quite honestly, 40-14. I mean, that was as unexpected. We know Detroit can score points, but Jacksonville's coming off that huge win. So
how angry does that national narrative make you?
It doesn't really bother me all that much. Okay. It would bother me more if they had continued to pile up losses, because then it would probably, you're probably right. But the fact that they've been able to discover the running game and get those things together, okay, so maybe you say, well, is Josh Allen not playing all that great? Okay, he still threw for 223 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. But look at the balance: 33 passes, 37 runs.
Right.
That's not usually what the Bills do, but it is
Right.
starting to become what they do. And so I'm good with it. And the narrative doesn't really bother me all that much.
Okay, good. Very good. Um, let's move on to my Giants. And the narrative that's bothering me is they're getting too much credit still nationally, because they're kind of like in that number 6 spot, so they're not in the last spot on the playoff chart.
But they're close.
But they're close, right?
Yep.
And I just don't think people are seeing what I see. And I said it last week or last time we recorded.
Yep,
they're running out of roster. They're out of roster. Okay, and we saw it on the last play against the comrades. I mean the Commodores. I mean the Commanders.
They're not your comrades.
No, or the Commodores. They're the Commanders.
Yeah.
When Doxson scored that touchdown, I mean that's where our roster is weak. Back half of the secondary, tackling, those young guys closing, taking angles and tackling, that killed us on that play. Still, Jones and Saquon have to do all this offense with no wide receiver talent whatsoever. We ran the ball 30 attempts total for 134 yards. I was fine with that. Slayton had a nice game. This Isaiah Hodgins stepped up for a couple of big catches.
Mm-hmm.
The tight end Bellinger will catch a couple, but really that's it. So when I look at this playoff format, Dave, there's a team that's not going to make it. That's pretty good, and the Detroit Lions, also both of them are surging up that board. And one team's going to be left out, and it's going to be the Giants. I just can feel it. I can sense it, and I don't want to be negative. I don't want to be a naysayer, but the roster is simply out of talent, and they cannot afford to change that until next season and salary cap issues clear up. So there's no Odell coming. There's no Jerry Jeudy coming. There's no help coming. This is who we have to win with. Larry Bird's not walking through that fucking door, to quote Rick Pitino. So they got to win with the roster that's on the field. That being said, the pass rush, Dave, is everything we've been asking for.
Ferocious.
Thibodeau's going to go down as how did everyone miss on him? And they fell to the Giants. Even that, I think they still got him at 5, right? Fairly early, but still, he's unbelievable. And Ojulari on the other side.
Ojulari is.
My boy Dexter Lawrence is having an all-pro nose tackle season. And if you haven't been watching, there's no stats really to back that up because he's a nose tackle. But the dude is just awesome. So,
the guy, and I forget who was on the broadcast, but he said that he thought Dexter Lawrence was the best defensive lineman in the NFL right now.
It was my boy Jonathan Vilma.
Oh, right, Vilma. That's right.
On television, but that was a salient point by him. He had clarity.
I thought it was a little much. I think he was getting wrapped up a little bit in the moment. But he's not wrong in the fact that he's one of the best. Is he the best? I don't know, but he is, like you say, he's playing very well.
Calais Campbell still in Baltimore. So there's certainly other names, but he's right there. Right
now. He's definitely right there. And so that's certainly, a good thing.
I said this about Verlander on our Yankee podcast. He's a player on a team I hate, but I would love him if he was on my team. Taylor Heineke. The dude just makes stuff happen. It's just a great story. You know what I mean? Just good on him. And I'm obviously not rooting for him on the Commanders. Let me address an issue, David. Many of you are probably hearing my granddaughter crying in the background.
There it is.
If you want to come here and discuss it, we can talk about it because Grandpa can fight when it comes to the granddaughter. So she's going to whine and cry a little. She's 6 months old. Back off.
Yep,
Don't at me, bro.
Nope. God bless her. Little Skylar there. God bless her.
Yeah, she'll be going to bed soon, 45 minutes, an hour, and 10, whenever we're done with this.
Yep, she'll be quiet after we're done.
Okay.
So deal with it.
So that's what I have on the Giants. The same place I have been thrilled with where their season's going. Love the coaching staff. Uh, I'm convinced Daniel Jones is our guy, at
Yeah.
least for the near future. We don't need to go out and draft a top range quarterback. So
No.
happy but realistic. I'm trying to be realistic, and
Yeah.
I feel like I'm crying into the wilderness right now. But we're going to stand here after week 18, and the Giants are going to be the last team listed as in the hunt, and then they'll be eliminated. But
Yeah. So I
maybe I'm
know
wrong.
that when we did the season preview, you had kind of thought, okay, the Giants would be about 500, which
Mm,
is, 8, 9 wins. So maybe this wouldn't surprise you, but if we started off at the beginning of the year and I said, Mike, going into week 14, the Giants would be 7, 4, and 1, would you have taken it?
yes,
Yeah,
I would be.
exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
I mean,
So,
I wouldn't take in the one, but
right. But you'd say,
did you
okay,
see both teams at the end of the game? They're like, I mean, they knew it was a tie, but it's like they didn't even want to get up and
yeah. Well,
acknowledge
And
it.
Vilma had it spot on. He said teams don't know what to do when it's a tie. They don't.
Yeah,
You can't really
we cannot.
celebrate. So yeah, they
We
just
can't
kind of.
compliment Jonathan Vilma twice in one podcast.
Yeah. Well, we
I
kind of.
thought my boy Graham Gano was going to hit it. It was straight. It looked like there was some wind resistance, and it was just short.
Yeah,
And
they needed like 5 more yards,
one more play or
one
five
more play
more. Right,
here. And
right.
I didn't think they did a bad job getting down the field either.
No,
They needed it.
I think I'm hoping there'll be an evolution in the NFL if these overtime rules stay where they are, where they take more chances earlier. Because it's
Yeah,
like they get down to the last 3 minutes of the game. It's like, oh, shoot, somebody might not win this game. We might end
yeah,
up with a tie. And it's like, okay, now we throw the trick plays and, the one we've been holding for a special occasion kind of plays
hmm
out there. Start with that early.
yeah,
Score early, score often, especially in overtime.
yeah,
But
yeah. Ties are the worst. Um,
like your Democratic friends voting, vote early, vote often. Sorry. Welcome to Chicago.
oh my goodness. So
Uh,
there was a couple other good. So at the same time, which was great for those of us in New York. At the same
oh,
time,
yeah.
the Giants are playing, and it's a tight game. The Jets in Minnesota. Um, Mike White doing his best, Joe Flacco to throw his arm out 57 times he
Oh, my
threw the ball in
goodness.
this game.
Can your brother get some
Uh,
ice?
yeah, hopefully. But the Jets played well in this game, Mike. Their defense is definitely for real. We continue week in and week out to say that. They very much like the Giants just have a ferocious defensive line. The linebackers are great. Robert Saleh has put his defensive stamp, I think, on this team with how they have played this year. And I think, for the rest of the season, it's going to be Mike White. We've talked about that
Oh, it's
last
got to be.
week. I think,
Yeah.
he threw for 369 yards in this game. Uh, but Mike, definitely the 5 field goals by the Jets,
Yeah.
um, including 4 in a row. End of the second quarter, I don't mind that one. But the 2 in the third and the 1 in the fourth, some
Especially when the
fairly,
Vikings hung a 17 spot on you in the second quarter.
yeah, yeah,
You're kicking field goals in the second half. I mean, there's nothing more in football than having the ball. No, I
yeah,
don't. I will park that opinion because they do not know the down and what the yard line was. So if they were deep in their own territory, you got to. Oh no, they're field goals. So never mind.
nope,
I take that all back. Yeah, I stand by that opinion. Got to go for it. Got to be a little more aggressive. And Salah, we just said, we enjoyed the old school football, and we do, but he managed it like an old school football coach.
yeah,
And um, is it who is it in Minnesota? It's not O'Connell, is it? Is it O'Connell? Yeah,
yeah, mm-hmm.
in Minnesota. He's a new school, be aggressive. And then he also has the monster that is Justin Jefferson, who did not have a great game.
No,
Sauce did a pretty decent job at him,
mm-hmm.
but he did get the biggest touchdown of the game, the last one to clinch it, put them, to get them to 27 points. And he's just can't be guarded in that situation. I generally am not a fan of the corner fade route in the red zone. I think it's a wasted play,
Mm-hmm.
especially in college and high school. But with Jefferson, you run it 4 times in a row, you're going to get a touchdown.
Right. Yep. And I think so, the Jets came right back after that, Mike. 75 yards in a minute 48 to get a touchdown. 6.5, just under 7 minutes to go. They had their chances, Mike. They get down there. Some questionable play calls down at the goal line there. Mike White throwing some bad interceptions down there too. The Jets had every opportunity.
Wide receiver pass to Garrett Wilson down there, which I thought was trying to be too cute.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Garrett Wilson's passing history is. I don't think he played any kind of quarterback in college.
No, I feel like he threw a pass earlier this year, though. I don't think that's
he seems to have an arm
time.
for sure.
But yeah, definitely, I agree. Getting too cute.
Play action pass down there, works wonders. Flood the one side or the other. We see it every week, multiple times, especially with Mike White at quarterback. He just got a little too cute. But that being said, the Jets in a pretty good spot, Dave. Playoff wise, trajectory wise, I don't know. Let me look at their schedule real quick and see what they got coming up. They've got
they're playing
you
the
guys
Bills
this week, of course. Then the Lions, the Jags,
the Lions,
the
Jacksonville,
Seahawks.
Seattle, and
so there's
Miami.
3 winnable games for them right there. Although, I guess all those teams are tough. I take that back.
Yeah,
3 challenges, 3
challenges
evenly matched
for
games.
sure.
We'll say evenly matched.
Right, games that you could say they're not going to be heavy underdogs in any of those games.
Right, that's true.
Like they're all going to be 3 or 4 point spreads.
Seattle might be playing for a playoff spot.
And then they finished the season in Miami against the Dolphins, which could be for a lot of marbles for playoffs.
Super entertaining, super.
Which is really, really exciting for the NFL. So the Jets, they've put themselves in a decent spot. They have winnable games, like you said.
And other games of note, Aaron Rodgers still owns the Bears. 28-19 just came out in the second half and blew their doors off. Are the Steelers starting to get good, Dave? Is Kenny Pickett actually got a little something? They beat Falcons 19-16.
I think Kenny Pickett is.
No, he goes no.
No, he's the quarterback of the future for Pittsburgh. But you look at Atlanta, they've been back and forth.
They're going to Desmond Ritter this week.
The Desmond Ritter.
I'm excited to see that.
Yes, I am too. But his time has come. Marcus Mariota has been benched. They've lost, what did I see? 3 out of 4 or 4 out of 5, somewhere along there.
In a very winnable division, and we'll get to Tampa in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Very winnable division.
Very winnable. They very easily could be in front there.
The Eagles and AJ Brown has, the revenge game, 2 touchdowns and big yardage and all that. And the Titans lose 35-10. Their offensive line is so beat up. Yeah. They're deep into the depth chart. And they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't protect Tannehill. And
we couldn't run the ball. We couldn't complete a pass. I saw that Jim Mora thing the other day. Oh my! I forgot about it.
What do you think about your team's execution?
We can't do diddly poo on offense. We can't stop.
What do you think about your team's execution, Jim? I'm all for it.
If you haven't seen that, folks, Jim Mora when he's with the Colts, right?
Yeah.
You've got to.
Colts is the playoffs one. And the Saints is the execution.
Oh, okay. So look, Jim Mora, Saints.
Just Jim Mora quotes or something, and
make sure whatever you need to do to not pee yourself listening to it because it is freaking hilarious. Anyways, let's transition away from the diaper talk. Even though we did talk about your granddaughter.
But AJ Brown, the Eagles put such a hurting on the Titans that they fired their GM after the game. It's like this non-signing and not picking up anybody to replace him in a wide receiver market and draft. They got Treylon Burks, who is going to be nice, but there was so
Yeah.
much more talent on the street and in the draft for a team that has seemed to be so close. Why you would either let AJ walk or not replace him with something, they saved money. They did that.
Sure.
Congratulations on that.
Congratulations.
And the Titans will still be hanging around, on the second game on the Saturday playoff weekend. It's real ugly, Ravens Titans 12-9 final kind of game, but still, the Eagles are good, Dave. I mean, this was as a statement of win as they could have.
Jalen Hurts, 29 to 39, 380 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, also had a rushing touchdown. That's 4 of their 5 touchdowns. If you want to, populate that as far as Hurts goes. The Eagles are flying, 11-1.
No, I'd rather die.
No, please don't. The Eagles are certainly,
Dave,
rolling.
walk us through the best game of the weekend, which was the Chiefs and Bengals. 27-24. McPherson wins it for the Bengals. Great football game.
Oh, it just tremendous. The Bengals, I was saying this to one of my sons the other day, like the Bengals are playing, and it wasn't just because they're playing the Chiefs. They've been playing this way for a few weeks. They're playing like they were at the end of last year. And at the end of last year, remind you folks, they went to the Super Bowl. They've kind of got everything going. I personally, and they didn't spend a ton of time talking about this, which I thought was a little bit of a mistake there with Romo and Nance. How well Cincinnati covered Travis Kelce. I mean, he had no catches in the first half. They did mention it, but they really shut him down.
Their podcast, but he and his brother Jason have a podcast, and I saw a clip from that podcast about that, and he said they just tripled me up. They had a linebacker. I got chipped, every time by a defensive lineman. They had a safety over top, and they had me bracketed, on the inside or the out. And that's when our other guys have to step up. And that's when you look at their receiving core and you think maybe Odell Beckham there might be an option because, I mean, Valdez, Scantling, and Smith-Schuster, they're a notch below top shelf. That's how I'll put it. Yep. So they're good, very solid wide receivers.
Right.
But they're not Tyreek Hill for sure. Although with Odell, they're saying he's been pitching teams on, I'll get you through the stretch run in the playoffs. And he had a physical in Dallas, and it's been leaked that he's not as healthy as he's pitching.
Yeah, well, I guess he said to Micah Parsons, right, he would be ready to help them in the playoffs.
Right. But he's been going around telling people he's closer than he is. So now teams are like, whoa, we're really going to. Do you think, well, that's not really a conversation, but let us know, folks, on social media, if you think the Odell Beckham injuries derailed what might have been one of the best receivers in the history of the game's career. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame probably because that's the way the Hall of Fame works in football. But really, with his speed and agility and cutting ability, and hands, obviously, all the tools of a Randy Moss, just shorter. Anyway.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
But this game day was a lot of fun, and we didn't really these two coaches not known for their clock management abilities, but really didn't have any complaints about that in this game for me.
No.
What else did you see in that?
No, it just was a great back and forth. The Bengals get out 14-3. The Chiefs come back to get it to 17-14, and then they go back and forth. The field goals, the touch, the Chiefs go ahead, the Bengals get a field goal and then they get a touchdown, and they're able to hold. So it just, it just had all of the markings of a great playoff matchup. Um, again,
Yeah,
I just think the Bengals are
yeah.
playing very well. The Bengals
I wouldn't be
defense,
upset if they saw each other again in the playoffs. I want the Bills to have the dream Super Bowl win where they also beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game and,
yeah.
and, and really put everybody to bed with that. But still, these two teams also a lot of fun. I know you don't want to hear that. And we had
No,
some
no,
RJP rounds
that's
fighting.
that's the thing. It adds
Yeah.
another layer of teams to get through in the playoffs. And the Bills have to play the Bengals January 2nd, Monday night in Cincinnati, where that's going to be for playoff positioning, because now you look at the Bills have beaten the Chiefs, the Bengals have beaten the
Right.
Chiefs, and the Bengals are 8-4. I mean, they're only a game back. And that what happens obviously in these other games too, but that Bills Bengals game now potentially becomes, a swing factor for whatever team is going to get
Right.
the number one seed, which gives you that bye in that first week and, you know, home
Well,
field
we'll break
throughout the
down the
playoffs.
standings a little bit, buddy. We do have to talk about your least favorite player, the GOAT, Tom Brady, TB12. Uh, just when you think he's done, and this game could not have been uglier from an aesthetic point of view for 3 quarters than the Saints Bucks. But Brady gets 2 touchdowns with 3 minutes left, one with 3 seconds left, um, to this kid White, who he was so full of energy and enthusiasm that Brady was just like, "Ho hum, we won another one," and I did it again. But this kid White on all the post game stuff was great. Great to see that love for the game, but neither one of these teams, Dave, want to win that division for sure. But the Bucks really took a huge step towards seizing control, and that means we're going to see Tom Brady on the NFC side of that ugly Saturday playoff schedule, where we usually get right a poopy game.
Yeah,
What are the Saints doing, Dave? Can you tell me what the Saints are doing? Why
no.
why is Andy Dalton still the quarterback when Jameis is on the bench? I mean, Jameis at least is going to uh, threaten down the field. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Although Dalton's not been terrible, and then Taysom Hill. I mean, are we again with Taysom Hill? As I've always complained about with him, either use him for 15 plays or get those plays out of the playbook. But they just seem to be always half stepping with him. So anyway, Saints really disappointing. Disappointing for some of us named Double Dip Dave to see the GOAT do it again, and the Bucks are going to be heard from, buddy. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I apologize in
unfortunately.
advance. I care about you. I know it's going to hurt, but what are you going to do?
It's interesting, Mike. It made me think about, so while you were uh, going through all of that, and I
Opining for
yes,
yeah,
and it does make me sick, because
puke
Tampa Bay
emojis
is
everywhere.
6-6, leading the division,
Yeah.
with a -2 point differential, and they're locked into a playoff spot. Um, the These Bucks Saints games are awful, and I was like, didn't they play earlier in the year? Yes, they did. And
Yeah.
the earlier game this year was just as bad,
Mhm.
and not as dramatic, but with similar results. 3-3 going into the fourth quarter, if you remember.
Yes.
Um, and then
Oh,
Tampa scored 17 points in the fourth quarter, and won 20-10. So
yeah.
let's say this is more of an indictment on the Saints than it is Tom Brady with another great comeback. And actually, it reminds me of
Okay.
how I felt after watching Michael Jordan for so many years. Here's, coming down to the end of a game. There was a finals game. I don't remember um, which year it was. It was not the game 6 against the Jazz, but here he comes down with the ball and the clock is running down, and they run a play, and he comes off and hits a jumper and wins the game. And I literally had no emotion. It's just like, okay,
Right.
like he's
Right.
done it so many times that it's
Yep.
it's just it's not amazing to me. It's boring,
Wow.
quite honestly. So,
Wow.
anyways, that's
Well, let's look at the standings then in the NFC, Dave. Let's start there. The Eagles' best record in the NFC at 11-1, a game behind the Vikings at 10-2. Those teams uh, solidified for the playoffs for sure, and going to battle it out for home field advantage. Um, the Niners leading the West at 8-4. Very interesting to me.
mhm.
Down to Brock Purdy. We saw Garoppolo hurt his ankle out for the season.
But
We
now
know.
they're saying he may not be out for the season.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it came out yesterday
Break
that
it down for me. Go off, King.
a lot of this, things that I don't remember exactly but some of the damage that they thought was done was not done. And he
Okay.
doesn't need to have surgery. And they're
Ah,
saying, potentially 7 to 8 weeks that he would be back. Well, 7 weeks
yikes.
puts it in the divisional round, 8 weeks puts it at NFC championship. So,
So, do you roll with Brock Purdy as your starting quarterback?
oh, I mean, I
Uh,
think they have to now. But the
well, there's no
question
trade that
is,
could be made.
no, the question is what happens should, um, with 4 losses, I'd be
Dave.
surprised to see San Francisco get to the number 1 spot and get a bye. So you have to
Well,
think
the only one.
that Purdy
Oh
is
yeah,
gonna
I'm
is
sorry.
gonna end up playing a playoff game.
Yeah, because Seattle's the only one that's going to challenge for the division. They're a game back.
Yeah.
But the Rams and the Cardinals are gone. So, forget about that. Uh, they signed NFL journeyman Josh Johnson as their backup quarterback. I mean, you got Baker bleeping Mayfield starting for the Rams tonight after a day and a half on the roster. There's some really ugly quarterback play in the NFL right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. And at a
I
time
was
when we
thinking,
thought, how great all the quarterback play has been. And we've had, really some golden years, but yeah, this year
right.
it's
I was thinking it'd be a really neat
terrible.
story if that piece of trash organization, the Cleveland Browns, cut Jacoby Brissett and the Niners could pick him up. I think his style of game would be perfect for the Niners, and I wouldn't mind seeing Jacoby get rewarded for all his crap he's had to go through. So
Mm-hmm.
I doubt they're going to do that, for many reasons.
Yeah.
But still, anyway, so I'll be interested to see who actually ends up in that slot. Niners or Seahawks really are the two. And then we just talked about the Bucks have the fourth division. And then we get into the wild card, Dave, and those stinking dudes with the stars on their helmet beat the crap out of the Colts and are 9-3. And honestly, they scare me. They're really good, and they're really good on defense. Micah Parsons is as close to LT that I've seen since LT. I don't say that lightly for sure. And their offense is just getting enough. And if they can stick with Tony Pollard more than Zeke and keep everybody happy, I mean, I'm grateful that Mike McCarthy's still the head coach and he's ultimately going to fuck it up. And I think Dak is probably not felt the pressure of a Cowboys playoff game in his life and will be tested for sure. Unless he's had one. Has he had one? He must have had one. Right?
Yes.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so they're
Yeah,
very
yeah.
good.
He in that game against the Packers, right, where the Packers came back and won in overtime.
Absolutely.
I
You're
think that
so
was
right.
in Dallas.
In Dallas. In Dallas. You're so right.
Yeah. So, and I think that's the last one. I guess the thing with the Cowgirls is exactly that. Like, let's see them do it in a big moment.
Right.
Mike McCarthy has shown his ability to, make poor decisions.
And Jerry Jones's ownership has not exactly been stellar. He had the early success with Switzer and all that, and Jimmy Johnson, but really, since then, no moss.
Yeah.
But they're going to clearly make the playoffs. They're in that first wild card spot. And then there's my New York Giants at 7-4-1. And as much as I hate that we tie, the tie helps us tremendously in these situations. but a very tough schedule, including the Eagles twice,
Mm-hmm.
down the stretch here. And like I've been shouting for 2 weeks, out of roster talent. Seahawks, now Kenneth Walker's hurt, and that hurts them quite a bit
Yeah,
in the
that
running
team,
back.
their running backs just get
Oh
hurt
my
all
gosh.
the time.
Would you rather be on the cover of Madden or a Seattle Seahawks running back? Really. So they're in the seventh and last playoff wild card spot. The Commanders 7-5-1. Remember the Seahawks have tiebreaker with us because they beat us earlier in the season.
Yes.
Commanders
But
7
right
5.
now that tie helps the Giants because their winning percentage is higher.
Right. And we're half a game ahead of the Commanders. And then you have the Detroit Lions, Dave, at 5-7. And really, I think that's it. Not to step on, get out of here. But I don't really consider the Falcons or the Packers a legitimate playoff contender.
No.
And so I'm looking at Lions, Commanders, Sea Chickens, Giants. 4 teams, 2 spots. And I don't love where we're at. And we have all the advantages. We're the highest position in the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
We have that tie, but I don't know. What do you? Am I being?
No, I mean, I think the thing is,
negative.
If you want to look at these teams, okay, Seattle certainly has had some playoff success, but a lot of the players that had that success are not there anymore. I think the luxury the Giants have is being the team that everybody else is chasing.
Right.
And they're not chasing anybody. They're the team that's getting chased. So now it hurts that they've lost to Seattle and they've lost to Detroit, and they, but they have another game with Washington. So that's going to help, and that, so I think they're in a good spot. I'd rather be the team ahead than the team that's behind and having to chase.
Of course. And that's what I meant by they're in all the right spots. They have all the advantages, but just, when you look at it objectively, somebody's going to, make a run at a wild card spot and which team's going to drop out. But that being said, I don't think it's right either, if I can complain about the scheduling for a second.
Sure.
That the Commanders, we play them, they have
get
a week off for the bye, and then we play them again. I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
It's essentially a month on one team you're spending.
Yeah. It's really, the scheduling folks didn't do anybody any favors. If the Giants had won the game, it doesn't matter who wins or loses the games from that perspective. It's just not good scheduling. It's just not.
Right. So let's go to the AFC. And of course, Dave, your Bills are leading all of the AFC at 9-3. Also with the tiebreaker with the Chiefs because they've beaten them. The Chiefs also 9-3, going to win their division easily. Ravens at 8-4, Dave, with a virtual tie with the Bengals. I don't know what the tiebreaker is, but the Ravens have it. Maybe they won earlier in the year. At 8-4,
they did, yes, but they have another game to play against them.
Okay, good. And then the Titans at 7-5. Going to win that division probably, right?
Yeah, they're up 3 with 5 to go. It's highly likely that they will lock into that 4 spot.
So in your AFC East, though, Dave, you've got your Bills 9-3, Dolphins 8-4, Jets 7-5, Patriots 6-6. So a 4-game spread between.
3-game spread.
Yeah, between the bottom and the top. Right now, it's Bengals, Dolphins, Jets to get into the wild card spots, with the Patriots behind them at the 8th spot, and then the Chargers. I can't see the Chargers making the playoffs. Can you, from the eye test perspective?
From the eye test, no, but they're right there. They're so talented. Could they put together a couple of, couple of big games and leapfrog the Patriots and the Jets? Sure. They totally could.
The team I'd like to make a run here, Dave, is the Vegas Raiders. Okay. They are down at 5-7, but their schedule. So they just beat the Chargers, so that's going to give
Yes.
them, a big leg up. I don't know if they
Hmm.
played them earlier in the year too, and they lost. They split.
Yep.
But they've got the Rams right
Tonight.
now,
Yep. Yep.
tonight. Uh, Very winnable.
Hmm.
Rams are starting Baker Mayfield. We just talked about that. The
Yeah.
Patriots, who are the classic lose to good teams, win against bad teams.
Yep.
So if you can, I think they can squeak out a win against the Patriots. Steelers are beatable. Niners, we just talked about.
Yeah.
Brock
Niners and
Purdy
Chiefs at the end.
and Chiefs, probably not playing anybody unless it's for home field
Oh,
advantage
they
in
might
that
need
last
that
game.
game though.
But either way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if they win 4 of the 5 and get them to 9 wins,
that
I
would
don't
get
know.
that would get them. Yes.
Does that? So they'd have to
I really don't.
just
I
look
don't
at the
know.
Jets.
I mean, winning 4 out of 5, I think it's going to be hard, particularly because you have the Chiefs and the Niners, who honestly I think are going to be fighting for playoff positioning and are going to need those games.
Need that game.
That's just
The Jets schedule is you guys, which I think they're going to lose. Lions feisty but beatable. Jaguars feisty but beatable. Sea Chickens fighting for a playoff spot, and then
and
Dolphins.
Miami. Yep.
Yeah, I think the Jets have a harder go of it in these last 5 games. Not healthy, especially at the running back position. So I like the Raiders passing both the Chargers and Pats. I think that's going to be relatively easy. And then, them and the Jets going at it and,
Yep.
Making a run. So,
yeah. And if you
am I
look at
crazy? Am I crazy?
no, I think the other pieces, and we didn't talk about looking at the Patriots schedule, home or at Arizona this week. We mentioned the game against the Raiders. The last 3 games, home for Cincinnati, home for Miami, and at Buffalo.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I think that's a really tough road for New England. If you want to look at a team that's going to fall out of the mix there, I say it's the Patriots.
I just don't see it. Yeah, I don't see it at all.
No. I mean, you're playing 3, the Bengals, the Dolphins, and the Bills, 3 high octane offenses where you need to score points. And against 2 of those teams, you're not going to score points as the Patriots for sure. So I think they're the team that's going to drop out.
Okay.
As far as that goes.
Dave, rushing leaders through week 13 in the NFL. We're big fans of old school rushing. We're always talking about offensive lines and running the ball.
Yep.
Do you know who the leading rusher in the NFL is currently?
I know for a while it was Derrick Henry. I'm going to say it's Josh Jacobs now because of how well he's run the last 3 weeks.
You're exactly right. Josh Jacobs of the Raiders, 1,303 yards. Second?
Well, I know Derrick Henry is over 1,000. This is NFL.
Derrick Henry's third.
So
there's someone in between.
Jeez, who the heck is second? It's terrible that I can't.
Piece of trash organization.
Nick Chubb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think you were just getting there yourself, right?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Then Derrick Henry, Saquon, Delvin Cook, Miles Sanders. And this is why I find this list interesting. The 7th spot. If I said a quarterback, would you have a guess?
Yeah, I mean it's probably Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts.
It's neither. It's Mr. Justin Fields of the Chicago Bears.
Oh, sugar! I should have known that.
905 yards.
He's number 7.
Number 7. I just thought that was interesting. That as much as we
and the Bears have been eliminated from the playoffs, by the way.
Right. So as much as we maligned him early, he certainly has turned the season around. Certainly can run. That run last week, against the Packers up the middle was spectacular.
And he's had a couple like that.
And he's starting to throw the ball better. Yeah. So there's another team that needs wide receiver talent. Real quick, I always find these interesting too. This stat, I have the top 10 teams leading the NFL in total attendance percentage.
Oh, I
So when
saw this today.
their they
Today?
announced their attendance and they divided by their total capacity. Okay. So in the top 10 in the NFL, all 10 are above 100% capacity, which I think
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't,
is
I couldn't figure, I
funny.
didn't look at that.
The, the,
I
the
saw the,
top team was very interesting. Do you remember who it was?
I don't off the top of my head.
None other than Jim Irsay and the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
They have
Like
filled that part
104, something like that.
104.6%.
Yeah.
Then the Niners, Buccaneers, they do well. Dolphins, Rams, all the teams that make sense. Bears actually at 100.4.
Yeah. That
And
surprised me a little bit.
yeah, Chiefs, that's a big stadium to fill, but no New York teams, at least in the top 10. I didn't, wish I clicked on to get further information.
Yeah. I can't figure out number of fans divided by total capacity and how that gives you more than 100%.
Uh, the boxes, you can fit standing room, or there's more people in the boxes than chairs or whatever
Okay.
it
Yeah. That
is.
makes more sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's one other thing too that, because I
Okay.
had the same question.
Yeah. Yeah. But that
Um,
makes sense.
we're a little long in the tooth here, David. Do you want to wrap up an NFL podcast and do a separate quick college, or just want to shoehorn it in right here?
We can shoehorn it in.
Wonderful.
The NCAA college football. The
If you're listening along with us, we appreciate it. We love you. It's Christmas time. We appreciate you.
Yeah, please
We
keep
ask,
listening and
keep,
watching.
like and subscribe on the tube. Uh, Hit us on all the socials. If you have somewhere you want us to hear, we should be publishing, let us know. Please just give us some feedback. We're trying to churn out more and more content, but we appreciate you being here. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Have a safe and happy holiday season. Dave, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a rant here about college football before we get into a little more dense nuts and bolts conversation, if you don't mind.
Okay, the
Proverbial floor.
the proverbial floor is yours.
Thank you. College football, as we've known it, has been dying slowly and uh, painfully over the last probably 20 years, almost like just a methodical cancer marching through the football's body. And, the NIL stuff came in, and that was great. I'm glad to see these young men get some money and get paid, what they're worth based on, their likeness and all of that. But along with that came the transfer portal. And I understand every sport has free agency, and it's been a long time since any of us were under the illusion that loyalty meant more than a paycheck to anybody in any sport. But college football and college basketball both were the last bastions of some semblance of loyalty. Kid comes and joins your program, he's going to be there probably 4 years with the red shirt, maybe 5 if he's not going on to something else. Most of those kids, are you just get to know them. You see them grow. You notice body type changes. You get to know their story. They become a part of your life for 4 or 5 years. That's a decent chunk. And then they move on and you replenish. Well, with this transfer portal, Dave, that's over. That is completely over. It opened up Monday, and nothing less than 1,000 people put their name in to the transfer portal. I'll give you one terrible example. JT Daniels, okay, was such a good quarterback in high school that he skipped his senior year of high school, got himself reclassified so he could start at USC after Sam Darnold left and got drafted in the NFL. They needed to replace him. Went to USC for 2 years, then to Georgia, then this year West Virginia, and now is in the portal again. So that's an example. So the idea of rooting for these teams and these young men on a long-term basis is over, and now you're just literally rooting for laundry. Okay.
Yep.
I see my Syracuse jersey. I'm going to root for whoever is wearing that. I might even know their name, and I follow it pretty closely. It's just the way college sports is. I don't think the transfer portal will be around forever. I think everyone's going to get used to using it properly,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and winning programs are um, going to retain their own players. But it is just absolutely crazy. Hawaii last season, Dave, brought in 60 players to the transfer portal. There's no limit. And these kids that are leaving, they're giving up a scholarship for an unknown. How many bad decisions are going to be made just because their feelings are hurt? There was a kid today that left Mississippi State, and he said he was leaving because Mike Leach told him he has to get tougher on the off season. And so if he doesn't think I'm tough enough, I quit. Oh yeah, you really showed him there, big fella, by walking out the door. Especially a running back in a Mike Leach system. Nobody cares about you. But anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying it's just disappointing to see this last. It's been coming for a long time, and I'm not, stupid or naive. I get it. This has been coming, and on some levels good, but I'm just, I guess, disillusioned a little bit by all of that. That being said, I hope Notre Dame finds a stud quarterback and maybe a couple of wide receivers in the transfer portal. Oh, but these kids that gave up their scholarships, they don't get picked up by another team. They can't go back because it's probably been given away somewhere else. So now, okay, is the G5 teams, are they going to be more loaded? It's going to be a trickle down effect that's going to pick lower level kids off their teams. But I don't know. I feel dirty talking about the transfer portal and who's going where, and it's a weird timing too, right? Doing it before the bowl games and the season's over. But anyway, feel free to comment on any or all of it, or just
I think it's did anyone think that it was going to get this ugly this fast? I'm not sure that they thought that was going to be the case.
Right.
You mentioned the NIL, and that's a whole separate thing altogether. Right. Which certainly on some levels, is playing a factor here. But just I don't like where I am. I'm going to go somewhere else. If you look at teams in the ACC, and going into this year, the ACC was a conference that had a lot of really good quarterbacks, and now virtually all of them are into the transfer portal.
Right.
And we're waiting on Clemson's quarterback, although maybe he already
he did go. DJ
he did. Okay,
is done. He's not going to play in the
bowl game. I mean, because they're starting the freshman guy
against Tennessee.
So it's just, I'm with you on everything that you said. It is very disheartening. It makes me think about, and I wasn't alive then, but how did and it didn't just hit like this all at once, but when you think about free agency starting in Major League Baseball, and just that you think about, looking at the Yankees and the whole Reggie Jackson thing, and the fact that he was on the A's and the A's didn't want him, and he went to the Orioles for a year, and then he goes to the Yankees, and and that was not after, right? Free agency started in 72, and this Reggie Jackson stuff was 76. So, that's a couple of years. He was
the first really good player to be like a nomad like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you think like a Gary Sheffield, like how many teams did he play for?
A lot.
Very good player. But anyway.
But that stuff is, in baseball, we've gotten used to it, obviously. But this is new and fresh, and it's college, which is, like you said in the beginning, way up on your soapbox, that this hasn't happened in college. It's happened everywhere else. And so, is this the one, or was this the one kind of protected thing? And I think it's difficult because there's such loyalty, fierce loyalties to college.
Oh, it's tribal
on some levels, maybe even more intense than the NFL as far as the fans go. And so to see that happen, so it'll be interesting to see how fans continue to take this. transfer
Yep,
portal and how all of it goes. Uh, Mike, I know you wanted to hit on some of the Heisman stuff if we are like talking about,
I do.
players that
So
transfer.
Caleb Williams, I think, is still going to win it.
Oh
But
yeah.
there's two people I want to, well, three really, I want to defend a little bit. Stetson Bennett's taken an awful lot of heat and criticism for a kid that does everything right. All the kid does is win. He doesn't, he has great teammates. Uh, he's got a loaded system, great coach, all of that. But, he threw for 3,400 yards this year, 20 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. Uh, just a solid college football quarterback
Mm-hmm.
that just taking abuse for simply just being ho hum. I guess it's his personality. I don't know what it is, but he just college football media in the Twitterverse. So I just wanted to step up for him a little bit. I don't think he's going to win it, but I mean, you can remember that championship game last year, Dave. He raised that team's play, especially in the
Mm-hmm.
second half. Without him, they don't win it.
Yeah, and if you
So,
think about by at the end of last year, how he was just so lauded for
oh yeah,
leading the team and all of the great things that he did,
right,
and this just in, they haven't lost since that time.
right.
And to
It's
have it,
just
the criticism is interesting, but I think it's, on some levels, it's just because they're number one and they're going to be, there's more of a spotlight there. And you have players like, Caleb Williams, having just incredible years. Uh, but, Caleb
yeah.
Williams' team lost a couple of games and they're not in the playoff.
I don't think C.J. Stroud is had the kind of year that should win the Heisman. Max Duggan probably should win it. I mean, they had a tremendous season, but the guy I was disappointed that didn't get two people that didn't get invited, and I thought they should have had the honor. Uh, Michael Penix Jr. in Washington, Dave. I don't know if you've seen. This is a Power Five conference, Pac-12. He had 500 attempts, 66 completion percentage, 4,354 yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 155.5. He should be there. He
Yeah.
really, uh, when he left Indiana, no one saw him, doing this. So he should be there. And then the other guy is Hendon Hooker. The dude played his ass off for 11 and three quarters games, gets hurt in the fourth quarter, and now all of a sudden he can't be invited. I mean, he was the favorite at the time he went down.
Yep.
His team lost after that. He only missed one game where, they beat up on Wake Forest. I just think he should have been invited. I just feel bad for the kid, who also, ironically, I don't know if you know this, Hendon Hooker's going to be 25 years old. He's older than Joe Burrow. Oh no,
Wow.
older than Trevor Lawrence. Joe
Yeah.
Burrow's older
Right.
too,
Right.
but
Yeah.
yeah, older than Trevor Lawrence. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, so I just think that the Heisman isn't supposed to be a team award; it's supposed to be an individual award, and they made it so if you're on a bad team, you can't even think about it. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts about
Yeah,
the
no, I
Heisman
think it's
race,
I think
or
it's
what you want to
definitely,
share?
that's it's disappointing, but I think it comes down to your team's not playing when you look at Duggan and some of the things that he did in the late games, and Hooker's not there,
Right.
so he makes it. Michael Penix gets Junior gets, buried.
Oh yeah,
Unfortunately.
media wise, he's probably in the worst position in the country as far as
Yeah.
playing out on the West Coast and
Yeah. So
all
I
of
think
that. But
those things play a factor. It'd be nice. I think they just try to invite five, but what's the harm in inviting seven?
yeah, no, I
I
agree.
mean,
And
you
they
got
only
to
did four
spend
this week.
less
Yeah,
time. talking
for
to
this year.
about each guy? Is that
I
so
mean,
wrong?
they put on this like 3 hour freaking pre-game show anyway.
Yep, I can't. And they wait until
But
like 2 minutes left to announce it. I just wait
yeah, I
until
don't
there's
even
like
tune in.
three
Right?
minutes. I
They
get.
have to know people are doing that, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay. Let's talk real quick, Dave, about some of these. Do you want to talk about the bowl games, or do you want to talk about the playoff, or both? I don't
Well, I mean,
care.
how did we get here? We talked about Caleb
Oh
Williams,
yeah, good call.
and his, incredible season, but they
Yep.
they have a early lead, and then they just get destroyed by
Yeah.
Utah. And clearly Utah was out, for revenge after losing earlier in the year.
This is
Um,
the Utah team they should have been all season. They lost that early game to Florida,
yeah.
and it just seemed to mess them up. And they finally got it right. It's too bad because they would have been a really fun playoff contestant. And I think that Cam Rising has a big future as a
Yep.
quarterback. But
Yeah. Yeah. So,
yeah,
it
no, I was
was.
surprised they came out in the second half and just laid a big fat matzo ball turd right in the middle of the field at
Yeah.
USC, and
Well,
that was it.
and the other thing in this game, so Caleb Williams gets hurt early
Yeah,
on that long run, hurts his hamstring. If you watch the second half, he's not the same player. Like
no,
I don't even know. I don't know why he's out there. I mean, I know he's probably going to win the Heisman, but you're putting that kid at risk out there.
mm-hmm.
And I'm sure he's like, I'm fine, but
No,
they
you got to
couldn't do
protect him from himself.
right. They
Yep.
couldn't do anything in the second half,
Yep.
offensively. And a lot of that was because he just couldn't move around.
Right.
He wasn't a threat to run. He wasn't even a threat to move in the pocket. So I wasn't crazy about. That seemed more like a pro decision than a college decision, if you have to ask my opinion. And well, you don't have to, because we have a
But we
podcast
just did.
where I can state my opinion and no one can stop me.
And
So
if you're still listening this deep in, you're interested. Yeah,
you're
so
definitely interested. So
let's not.
I think that's rough. The Kansas State TCU Big 12
Oof.
championship was just amazing. Um, Although, some really, really questionable play calls by TCU down on the goal line, uh, runs right up the middle, when they had definitely had
Ticked,
success
ticked. Right.
spreading things out. They had every chance to win that game at the end of regulation. Really, really felt bad for them. I'm glad it did not affect their playoff positioning, and a lot of people had said it wouldn't, but
Right.
this is TCU, and they haven't been there
No,
and all
they.
of this, but they're
Right.
still in the playoff, even though that was their first loss. Um, Kudos to Kansas State for continuing to just battle, uh, and put up which was just a great championship game, which we needed. One good game, because
One good game
the
for
rest
sure.
of them were just awful.
Yeah, absolutely. Georgia just put the hammer on LSU. Michigan buried Purdue. Uh, Tulane, Tulane's super impressive.
Yeah.
As probably the best team in that G5 division. So good for them. What did you think, Dave, of the playoff committee strategically not matching up Michigan and Ohio State? Did they do that on purpose,
Oh, absolutely, they did.
you think?
Absolutely. Uh, uh, you know, I think it's kind of junk. But I guess if you look at it the way Ohio State was, they were five, and so
Okay.
USC drops out. Ohio State moves to four. They keep TCU at three. They keep Michigan at two. Um, but it's still So I could
would
look at
have,
it from that perspective. Um, it would be hard to leapfrog Ohio State over a team when Ohio State hadn't played a game.
right.
And
Right.
they,
Ohio State got into the playoff without winning their conference,
yeah.
or without winning their, conference
Conference. Yep.
or a championship game
Yep.
at all. But when you look at their resume, their only loss was to the number two. And they really wouldn't have had a problem if the committee had moved Michigan up to one and Georgia two. But I'm glad they didn't. I think Georgia's clearly the best team in the country,
Yep.
as you know. So I thought that went well. The only team, I do think they get screwed Georgia a little bit by having to play USC. Like talent wise, on paper, USC is probably the second best team talent wise. I think their coaching, uh, that Michigan Ohio State game, Michigan came out in the second half with their hair on fire. We're going to win this game,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to give every effort, and we have a plan. Ohio State came out and was said, "Oh boy, I hope we don't lose." They punted 3 times on the plus side of the field. Um, they were playing not to lose, and simply got out coached.
Mm-hmm.
As much as whatever you want to say about Harbaugh, he just blew um, Ryan Day off the field in the
Yep.
second half of that game. So uh, I'm saying all that to say I think Georgia is going to have the toughest test because they're going to have to play both Ohio State and Michigan. That's my prediction. But I thought the committee did a decent job. Um, and then the rest of the games that they picked for New Year's Eve in the second were fine. You got Utah, Penn State, actually be a good game. Penn State had one of the best seasons for a team that never gets talked about. 10-2 and lost to Ohio State and Michigan.
Yeah.
I think that's a good game. USC Tulane will be fun just to see, if Tulane can hang with them a little bit. USC's defense is not great.
No,
So
it is
that'd be
not.
good. Alabama, Kansas State should be a really good game, Dave. Really good
Yeah,
game.
yeah, yeah. I think that is definitely and that's the wet your whistle early in the day, New Year's Eve.
Right.
That's at
Noon
noon.
kickoff.
And then,
So
that bleeds right into, the TCU Michigan at 4 and Ohio State Georgia at 8. These games are all on ESPN. So you literally could turn your TV on and leave it on one channel all day long. Not
do
have
you
to
have
worry
the
about
streaming service that questions you after like 4 hours and says, "Are you still there?" Question mark. Or if you're still there,
um,
change the channel. I
uh,
get that on Saturdays
I will
sometimes with
find
college
out
football or
on
Sundays.
the 31st.
Okay.
But no, I don't. No, I don't. Now that I think about it, no, I don't think so because I've definitely
Well,
had
maybe
stuff
just don't
on
watch that one.
for that one. No, no, I do. I do.
Let's go over some other bowls real quick, and then we'll get out of here, buddy. The Duke's Mayo Bowl. Where did I see that?
Oh yes, it's Maryland, an old ACC rival, Maryland and NC State.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
Friday, December 30th. That
Okay.
is the opening of bowl games that day at noon on ESPN. So we will
Nice.
look forward to the ending of that game to see which coach gets the Duke's mayo dumped all over them. That's always one of our favorites.
December 29th at 5:30 on ESPN, Dave. The Cheez It Bowl with Oklahoma, that piece of trash.
Oh, I
I mean,
can't
they
believe.
really, you got Brett Venables came in with all this fanfare
Yeah.
and took a team that had a lot of talent on it still and went 6-6. Not good in Oklahoma, but they're going to give them time to fix it. And Florida State, who is the team on the come up, I think.
Yeah.
This is uh, an interesting game, and of course we love it because they dump Jesus on the winning coach.
Yep.
It's always plain cheddar. I wish they would get into some duos or
Uh-huh.
something. But
Not
any
to
other
be,
games?
yeah, not to be outdone earlier in the day. My Syracuse Orange making the, oh, this kills
Pinstripe
me,
Bowl.
the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl.
Oh,
Uh,
I hadn't heard that. Don't ever say that again.
yeah, yeah, I
No,
really don't want to.
no,
Playing
no.
against 8-4 Minnesota. That's 2 o'clock on ESPN. This is
Okay.
being talked about as the Mark Coyle Bowl. Mark
Okay.
Coyle, the athletic director at Minnesota, uh, who hired their current coach, was the athletic director at Syracuse before he went to Minnesota. He wasn't there very long, but he was there long enough to hire Dino Babers. So he has
Oh,
hired both coaches. I could give two bleeps about Mark Coyle. I thought he did a bad job coming in and leaving within a year, saying, and he's a Syracuse alum, saying this is great, and then he leaves to go to Minnesota. So that'll be all the fodder prior to the game, and then we'll see what happens during the game. Minnesota, an early 7.5 point favorite.
really interesting. Great running back matchup with Tucker and Ibrahim.
Yep.
Um, you know, so very good.
So could be a good
Um,
game.
sure. One game, and this will transition us into coaching changes. We have to talk about Dion real quick, but Luke
Prime
Fickle,
time.
um,
Prime time. Okay, go ahead.
that's it. Luke Fickle leaves Cincinnati and goes to Louisville. Is that what happened?
No,
Oh
Jeff
no,
Brom
no,
went to Louisville because he
right,
used to
right,
be the
right,
quarterback there.
right. Fickle went to Wisconsin,
Uh,
I believe.
how fickle of him.
Boom, boom.
Dad
Who's
humor.
the Louisville coach now?
Jeff Brom.
Right. And then the Louisville coach went to Cincinnati, Scatterfield or something like that.
You don't live in Cleveland, you live in Cincinnati. Look that one up, Sam
Yeah.
Weish, if you haven't seen
Well,
that
I
one
haven't heard
before.
that in a long time.
I had that.
Children class.
Yeah, I've had that. Scott Satterfield, yes, who went to
Yes.
become the Cincinnati's coach after a stellar 25 and 24 in 4 seasons at Louisville.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Just, little coaching triangle there that does be in that bowl matchup. Uh, so let's end on this. Deion Sanders leaves Jackson State to go to Colorado University.
Yep.
He shows up and his opening press conference or opening talk to the team is, I'm coming, my coaching staff is coming, and I'm bringing my luggage with me, and it's all Louis Vuitton. And I'm talking about my players. My son Shadur is going to be the quarterback. He brought the #1 ranked recruit from last year's class in the whole country with him. Basically,
Oh,
told me
wait. How did he do that? Oh, right. The transfer portal.
transfer portal. Dave, you're in higher education, have been for a long time.
Yep.
How in the heck can all of these transfers match up academically? Like courses, course studies, what
it has
transfers?
got to be a nightmare.
Could you imagine having that? I work for the sports information director, but my job is to make sure that
well,
the credits from Louisville are good in
yeah.
Cincinnati.
Now, in a prior life, prior to Think Tank Sports, when I was doing my master's degree, I did my internship with the football team at Syracuse and worked with a lot of the freshmen, tutoring them, but also sat in the staff meetings and things. They get an awful lot of attention, and they're,
Sure.
the folks there very focused on, when it was registration time, that they were all over the students, what classes are you taking, like being there with them while they're doing their online registration. I cannot imagine first the admissions offices having to deal and focus on the transfers of the credits and all of that, along with teams trying to bring players in, get them accustomed to the facilities,
right.
New surroundings and all of that. That part is not being talked about and probably won't
No.
early on. We've got to get, like a full 4-6 years worth of traction and get some data as higher ed is driven by to figure some of that stuff out and see what's going on. But yeah, I don't envy those people at all, because that literally sounds like such a nightmare. Sure, you can transfer, but
and then you got these kids that went to high schools that are barely accredited. I mean, it's still got to be a nightmare. But anyway, so Deion goes to Colorado. I'm a little surprised, Dave. A job like we just talked about with Louisville seems like would be more his speed.
Yeah.
I think, well, first of all, the people that are complaining that he left the HBCUs high and dry, shut your mouths. He did more in the last 4 or 5 years for the HBCUs than anybody since Eddie Robinson, okay, at Grambling. He's left a legacy of in the community in Jackson, Mississippi. Did you think he was really going to live in Jackson, freaking Mississippi, for the rest of his life? And they didn't want to pay him. They certainly did not want to pay any of his assistants. Yep. Okay. And that's what you do in coaching. To stay 3 years with his success.
Yep.
I don't blame him at all.
No, it's small school, big school. I mean, it's
right.
It's
gross.
It's not surprising in any way. But now he's going to be in a serious spotlight in a big time conference. So let's see what Deion can actually do. as a
I think he's
coach.
going to be great. I
You
think
know,
2 or 3 years they'll be. Aren't they going to the Pac-12 in a couple of years too? I believe. So he'll be pulling from the West Coast more. But 2 or 3 years they'll be super competitive, if not winning. You know, that conference, and I wouldn't be
they are in the
surprised.
Pac-12 now.
They are now. Okay.
Yes.
So, they've got a lot of opportunity in front of them. I would not be surprised to see them be successful fairly quickly.
1-11 they were, Mike.
Yeah. So
Allowed
nobody on that team,
534 points in 12 games.
yeah, nobody on that team has any claim to any position because
No.
that's just not acceptable. Anything else, David, on college football or anybody else you want to talk about?
The only thing I did see today, which, again, you think about different things that go on. The Syracuse defensive coordinator, Tony White, is
Mm-hmm.
leaving to be the defensive coordinator with Nebraska.
Oh,
So that's a little disappointing because he had made some serious inroads in his 3 years at Syracuse,
yeah.
improving the defense tremendously. So that's sad, but when you have success, teams are going to want you. And so, kudos to Tony White for going to Nebraska,
Yeah.
which has, certainly a lot of tradition, but has been,
Yeah.
pretty bad lately, kind of similar to Syracuse, honestly. So
Fair
we'll see
enough.
what he can do.
Yeah. Good
So
for him. Always good
that's,
to see the family grow and,
yep.
have success. So,
Yep. So no,
all right,
other
folks.
than that, Army Navy on Saturday, if you're into that kind of
Oh, you got to
thing.
watch that. Just some
Um,
good old fashioned Americana at this time of year. Just celebrate the flag and put your political stuff aside and
yep,
just
and
have a
the
good time with
all
it.
the cadets in uniforms and cheering and knowing
These
that
young men and women
none of these guys are on
sacrificing.
scholarship.
Yeah.
So that's 3 o'clock on CBS with Navy as a 2.5 point favorite.
Yes.
So we'll see how that goes. That game is always a toss up. Yeah, it's always a toss up.
Yep. All right, folks. Appreciate you hanging in with us all this time. Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, obviously YouTube, where we're just a juggernaut with Dave's handsome face. Uh, and we appreciate the support, the love, the kindness. Merry Christmas. We will be back with the NFL, obviously, next week and continue to watch some of these college games. But until then, we thank you for watching Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen as we strive for 5.